Welcome to the TripNavigo channel. Warsaw, the capital of Poland, is a city that was almost completely destroyed during World War II and rebuilt from the ruins with remarkable determination. In this video, we'll show you the most important landmarks you need to see when visiting the capital. As you walk from the center of Warsaw toward the Old Town, be sure to take a stroll along Chmielna Street, one of the most famous streets in the city. Today, it's known for trendy cafes, boutiques, cozy eateries, and its artistic vibe, which draws in both locals and tourists. Before the war, Chmielna was an elegant shopping avenue, lined with grand townhouses, luxurious stores, and fine restaurants. One of Warsaw's most representative streets is undoubtedly Nowy Świat, part of the Royal Route, which runs from Krakowskie Przedmieście all the way to the Royal Baths Park. Krakowskie Przedmieście is one of Warsaw's most prestigious streets, the heart of the historic Royal Route. It begins next to the Holy Cross Basilica and the iconic Staszic Palace, home to the Polish Academy of Sciences, with a statue of Nicholas Copernicus standing prominently in front. This is the pedestrian path that leads directly to the Royal Castle and the Old Town. As you walk along Krakowskie Przedmieście, you'll pass many remarkable buildings. One of the most important is the University of Warsaw, one of the oldest and most prestigious universities in Poland. Its main campus is admired for its elegant architecture and long academic heritage. Right next door is the charming Church of the Visitation Sisters, an 18th century Baroque gem, known not only for its beautiful interior but also for organ concerts and ties to Frédéric Chopin, who played here as a young boy. Continuing down Krakowskie Przedmieście, we reach one of Poland's most elegant and historic hotels, the Hotel Bristol. Right next to the hotel is the Presidential Palace, the official residence of the President of the Republic of Poland. Its history dates back to the 17th century, when it served as an aristocratic residence. Over the centuries, the palace changed hands many times, belonging to the Radziwiłł family and later housing various governors and government offices. Before the war, it housed the Council of Ministers, and in 1926 it was here that Marshal Piłsudski accepted President Wojciechowski's resignation after the May coup. Remarkably, the palace survived World War II in relatively good condition and was later restored, maintaining its neoclassical style. The Old Town of Warsaw is now the capital's showcase, but it carries an incredibly dramatic history. During World War II, it was almost entirely destroyed. It's estimated that 90% of Warsaw's buildings were reduced to rubble, and the Old Town was leveled by German bombing and deliberate demolitions following the Warsaw Uprising. Reconstruction began almost immediately after the war, and was a tremendous effort of the Polish nation. It took many years. The first tenements were rebuilt by the late 1940s, and the full process lasted into the 1960s. It was a reconstruction unlike any other. Not only were streets and squares restored, but the facades of buildings were recreated based on Canaletto's paintings and pre-war photographs. The tenements in the Old Town were rebuilt in Baroque and Renaissance styles, though many are now shorter than they were before the war. This was due to technical and financial limitations at the time. The Polish state had to make difficult choices to revive life in the area. Thanks to this extraordinary reconstruction, Warsaw's Old Town was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List, not as an original, but as a symbol of resilience and rebirth, a unique example of the reconstruction of an entire urban complex. The Old Town Market Square in Warsaw is the heart of the historic capital. It was established in the 15th century and for centuries served as a hub for trade, public events, and urban life. Surrounded by colorful, faithfully reconstructed townhouses, the square captivates with its old-world charm. At its center stands the statue of the Warsaw Mermaid, the city's symbol. Legend has it that the mermaid swam up the Vistula River, enchanted by the beauty of the place, and decided to defend Warsaw. The sculpture we see today is a post-war replica of Konstanty Hagel's 19th century creation. The original was destroyed during the war, but the new figure faithfully reflects its form. Just behind the Old Town Square, we find the Barbican, a massive semicircular brick and stone structure that was once part of Warsaw's defensive walls. It was built in the 16th century, when the city needed better protection against invasions. The Barbican served as a gate and defensive point between the old and new towns. Though its military role was mostly symbolic, it remained a key part of the city's fortifications for centuries. It was almost completely destroyed during World War II. Beyond the Barbican, we enter Nowomiejska Street, one of the main arteries of the former New Town, leading straight to its own market square. This medieval street was carefully reconstructed after the war, preserving its historical layout and character. At the end of Nowomiejska Street, we arrive at the New Town Market, quieter and more intimate than the Old Town Square, but equally charming. Surrounded by pastel townhouses, this square was once the center of an independent settlement, New Warsaw, which was incorporated into the city in the 18th century. The dominant feature of the square is the Church of St. Casimir, built at the end of the 17th century by Queen Maria Kazimiera, wife of King Jan Sobieski. Returning toward the Old Town, we once again pass the Church of the Holy Spirit and the Pauline Monastery on Nowomiejska Street. Walking west along Długa Street, we pass two particularly symbolic buildings. The first is the Field Cathedral of the Polish Army, a garrison church originally built in the 18th century as a Baroque church for the Piarists, now serving as the spiritual center of the Polish military. One of the most moving places in Warsaw is the Warsaw Uprising Monument, a monumental sculpture ensemble located at Krasinski Square. Right next to it stands the modern, imposing building of the Supreme Court, with its distinctive green columns and golden quotes from the law. Also on Krasinski Square, near the Uprising Monument, stands the elegant Baroque Palace of the Republic, formerly known as the Krasinski Palace. It was built in the second half of the 17th century for the powerful Krasinski noble family. Returning toward the Old Town, we turn into picturesque Miodowa Street, once full of palaces and monasteries, now lovingly restored. We then enter narrow Piekarska Street, which leads us to the square where the monument to Jan Kilinski stands. Who was Jan Kilinski? He was a hero of the Kościuszko Uprising of 1794, a Warsaw shoemaker who led the city's people in fighting the invaders. A symbol of the courage of ordinary citizens who took up arms for independence. We return to the Old Town to admire the royal castle. This is where Polish kings resided for centuries, and where the Constitution of May 3rd, the first in Europe and the second in the world, was adopted in 1791. The castle was rebuilt and destroyed many times throughout its history, but its most tragic moment came during World War II. After the Warsaw Uprising, the Germans deliberately blew it up, destroying almost everything of historical and symbolic value. Only burnt fragments of foundations and a few salvaged interior elements, hidden by museum workers and locals, remained. Reconstruction did not begin until the 1970s and was completed in 1984. It took over 13 years and was made possible thanks to public donations and the enormous effort of the entire nation. Today, the royal castle once again stands proudly over Castle Square, a symbol of the strength, determination, and love of Poles for their history. It's a somber yet moving story of rebirth from the ruins. Right next to the royal castle, on the Vistula riverside, are the Kubicki Arcades, monumental brick chambers designed in the early 19th century by Jakub Kubicki, court architect to King Stanisław August. Mariensztat is a small but charming neighborhood located at the foot of the Old Town, between the Royal Castle and the Vistula River. Its name comes from Maria Lubomirska, wife of Ustachi Potoki, who in the 18th century founded a private town here called Mariensztat. Before the war, Mariensztat was a district of craftsmen and merchants, full of cobbled streets, low-rise buildings, and bustling markets. It was almost completely destroyed during the war, and just after the war, it became one of the first parts of Warsaw to be rapidly rebuilt. Reconstruction began in 1948. We returned to Piłsudski Square, one of the most important and symbolic places in Warsaw. Over the centuries, the square has changed its face many times, and each era has left its mark. During the partitions, the Russian authorities built the monumental Alexander Nevsky Cathedral here, a symbol of imperial Russian domination. After Poland regained independence in the 20th century, it was demolished, and the representative Saxon Square took its place. During World War II, the Germans destroyed most of the surrounding buildings, including the Saxon Palace. Only fragments of the colonnade survived, under which lies the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, a memorial to all those who died defending the homeland. Also located in the square is the monument to Marshal Józef Piłsudski, the leader who led Poland to independence in 1918. Right next to Piłsudski Square, on Kredytowa Street, stands one of Warsaw's most beautiful churches, the Evangelical-Augsburg Holy Trinity Church. On Warsaw Insurgent Square, we find the elegant Hotel Warszawa. Before the war, it was a skyscraper and the headquarters of Prudential, one of the tallest buildings in Europe. During the Warsaw Uprising, it was targeted by artillery and became a symbol of resistance. Despite the damage, it survived and was later restored. Nearby, you'll also see a bust of Napoleon Bonaparte, a reminder of his influence on Polish history and the hopes Poles placed in his campaigns. As we return through central Warsaw, it's impossible not to notice the city's most recognizable building, the Palace of Culture and Science. This monumental socialist realist structure was built in the 1950s as a gift from the Soviet people to the Polish people. Construction began in 1952 and lasted 3 years. For some, it's a symbol of communism and Soviet dominance. For others, it's a key landmark and cultural center. Regardless of its controversial history, the palace remains an inseparable part of Warsaw's skyline. Foksal Street, located just off Nowy Świat, is one of Warsaw's most elegant and atmospheric streets. Its name comes from the English word Vauxhall, a reference to London's entertainment gardens, which inspired similar places in Warsaw in the 18th century. This area once hosted promenade gardens and elite social venues. In the second half of the 19th century, the street was developed with beautiful, eclectic, and neo-Renaissance townhouses. Continuing through central Warsaw, we reach Charles de Gaulle Roundabout, one of the city's most famous intersections. Named in honor of the French president who supported Poland's struggle for independence, the roundabout is easily recognized by its iconic metal palm tree. From here, it's just a short walk to the elegant Three Crosses Square, which connects Nowy Świat with Ujazdów Avenue. The name comes from 3 crosses, 2 on the Baroque Church of St. Alexander and 1 on a central column. This area is filled with classical palaces, embassies, boutiques, and cafes, perfect for ending your day in Warsaw style. Ujazdowski Avenue is one of Warsaw's most prestigious streets, lined with majestic villas, elegant palaces, and the headquarters of key government institutions. It hosts numerous embassies, ministries, the Chancellery of the Prime Minister, and Belweder Palace, and is part of the historic Royal Route. Before the war, Ujazdowski Avenue was one of the city's most fashionable and prestigious areas. It was home to intellectual, political, and artistic elites, with residences that dazzled with wealth and architecture, inspired by classicism and neo-Renaissance styles. During the war, many of these buildings were destroyed, but after the war, some were rebuilt or repurposed for public institutions. Today, Ujazdowski Avenue charms with its tree-lined boulevard, elegance, and calm, a true oasis of prestige in the heart of the city. Now we visit one of the most beautiful parks in Warsaw, the Royal Baths Park, a royal museum park that enchants in every season. Here, amid ancient trees, ponds, and palaces, we find the monument to Henryk Sienkiewicz, author of the trilogy and the first Polish Nobel laureate in literature. A few steps away, in the heart of the park, stands the most famous monument of Frédéric Chopin. At the heart of the Royal Baths Park lies its most precious jewel, the Palace on the Isle, also known as the Łazienki Palace. Its origins date back to the late 17th century, when magnate Stanisław Heracliusz Lubomirski commissioned the construction of a Baroque bathing pavilion on the pond. Its true heyday came in the second half of the 18th century, when King Stanisław August Poniatowski transformed it into an elegant neoclassical residence, a place for summer gatherings, philosophical debates, and artistic salons. This was where the king surrounded himself with artists, scholars, and politicians, creating a center of Polish enlightenment. During World War II, the palace on the Isle was severely damaged by the Germans. All the bridges were blown up, the interiors destroyed, and the facade rigged with explosives to be demolished. Fortunately, that never happened, and after the war, the palace was meticulously restored. Leaving the royal baths, we head to Warsaw Street, home to the political heart of Poland. Here stands the Sejm of the Republic of Poland, the seat of parliament, where the country's most important debates and decisions take place. We reach the Vistula River, where the Warsaw Mermaid statue proudly stands, the city's symbol and guardian. Across the river lies one of Warsaw's most atmospheric and rapidly developing neighborhoods, Praga. Once overlooked, today it impresses with its authenticity, history, and new energy. In the heart of this district is the Praga Koneser Center, a revitalized former vodka distillery complex turned into a modern cultural, artistic, and entertainment hub. Warsaw's Praga is also a place of spiritual diversity. Two unique places of worship stand side by side: the Orthodox Cathedral of St. Mary Magdalene with its distinctive onion domes, and the Catholic Cathedral of St. Michael the Archangel and St. Florian the Martyr, an impressive neo-Gothic building with two soaring towers. We return to Old Town to see the Archcathedral Basilica of St. John the Baptist, the oldest church in the city and the site of coronations and burials of Mazovian princes, primates, and presidents of the Republic. Back at the Old Town Market Square, it's worth not only admiring the colorful tenements and the mermaid statue, but also enjoying some great food. The Old Town is a true culinary delight. Here you'll find restaurants serving classic Polish dishes, such as sour rye soup, red borscht with dumplings, pierogi in many varieties, pork knuckle, and bigos. For dessert, royal cheesecake, apple pie, or delicious rose-filled donuts, best enjoyed with a cup of coffee in one of the cozy cafes overlooking the square. It's the perfect place to relax after sightseeing and soak in the atmosphere of Old Warsaw, with a plate full of tradition. We slowly leave the Old Town and head toward the modern center of Warsaw, where history gives way to contemporary architecture and vibrant urban life. We enter the world of glass skyscrapers, office buildings, luxury hotels, and shopping centers. This is where the capital's economic heart beats, dominated by high-rises around ONZ Roundabout, Dzerzhinsky Roundabout, and near the Central Railway Station. In recent decades, Warsaw has undergone a major transformation, from a city of ruins to one of Central Europe's most modern capitals. Skyscrapers like Warsaw Tower, Warsaw Spire, and Złota 44 symbolize the ambition and pace of modern Poland's development. It's a remarkable contrast, a city that remembers every chapter of its history, yet boldly looks to the future. We're back at the Palace of Culture and Science, one of Warsaw's most recognizable and most controversial symbols. For some, a relic of communist times; for others, a landmark and important cultural hub. Norblin Factory is one of the most fascinating places on the map of modern Warsaw, a true journey through time and space. Once an industrial jewel of the capital, in the 19th century it housed the Norblin, Buch Brothers and T. Werner metalworks, producing brass and silver goods for Europe's aristocracy. Now we head to one of the greenest and most extraordinary places in the heart of Warsaw, the rooftop garden of the University of Warsaw Library. This is one of the largest rooftop gardens in Europe, opened in 2002. Walking along its walkways and terraces with views of the Vistula and the city skyline, you can easily forget you're in the middle of a bustling metropolis. The library's glass facade, modern architecture, and lush greenery create a unique blend of knowledge, art, and nature. The University of Warsaw Library is not just a center of learning, but also one of the city's most architecturally interesting buildings. Its new structure opened in 1999 and immediately impressed with its modern, eco-friendly design. Designed by Marek Budzinski and Zbigniew Badowski, it combines glass, steel, and greenery. Inside, you'll find modern reading rooms, study and workspaces, and a collection of millions of volumes. It's a lively place full of students, researchers, and Warsaw residents. On the roof is the garden mentioned earlier, a true oasis in the heart of the city. Xavier Square is one of Warsaw's most iconic and stylish places, known locally as Zwowics, especially popular among the city's younger crowd. At the center of the square rises the monumental Church of the Most Holy Savior. Returning to the Royal Łazienki Park, let's remember that it's not just a park and palace complex, but also a venue for exceptional cultural events. Continuing along Ujazdowski Avenue, we reach Belweder, one of the most recognizable residences in Poland. The palace was built at the end of the 18th century and was originally part of the royal summer residence. During the partitions, it housed the Viceroy of the Kingdom of Poland, and after Poland regained independence, Marshal Józef Piłsudski made Belweder his official residence. In the interwar period and again after 1989, many important politicians and presidents lived here, including Wojciech Jaruzelski and Lech Wałęsa. In the southern part of the Royal Łazienki Park stands a unique building, the New Orangery, built in the second half of the 19th century on the initiative of Tsar Alexander II. It was created as an elegant place for storing exotic plants and flowers, especially during the winter season. This stylish, glass-structured building in the classicist style still impresses with its lightness and brightness. At the end of our journey through Warsaw, we stop by Marszałkowska Street to visit the so-called MDM, the Marszałkowska Residential District. This monumental housing complex was built in the 1950s as a flagship example of socialist realist architecture. Is Warsaw worth visiting? Without a doubt, yes. It's a city that rose from the ruins and today pulses with life, culture, and a unique atmosphere. If you enjoyed this journey through Warsaw, leave a comment, share what impressed you most, what you've already seen, and what you're planning to visit. Like the video and subscribe to the TripNavigo PL channel so you don't miss the next episodes.